Practice, practice, practice is the biggest advice I have, especially for science classes. You have to make time, find time to do that extra work that's not going to be graded. What's up, my friends? How are you guys doing? If this is your first time on my channel, thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button while you're here. If you're a returning watcher, thank you so much for sticking with your girl. You know, I appreciate it. So today I am going to be talking about some pre-med study hacks and study tips and things that worked for me to raise my GPA and get my grades to where they needed to be in order to get into medical school. Let's get into the video. So I've made videos in the past of things I did to raise my GPA, and there was some things that I left out and things that I thought I did that were more specific that I think it'd be interesting to share now that I've gotten into medical school. And I'm hoping that it will help you guys and you guys can apply some of these tips to your own studying, just so that you guys can raise your GPA and continue doing well in school and making sure you set yourself up for success when applying. So the first thing you have to do, you have to get to know your professor. You have to observe them. You have to understand the structure of the class. You really have to understand what kind of class you're walking into, because that will set the precedent for how you approach studying for the class and how you make it so that you get a good grade in the class. For example, if a professor multiple times tells you that literally everything they will test you comes from their slide, that should be a signal to you that that is the first thing you want to focus on when studying, right? You want to start with that information and supplement with extra information after that. Or if a professor tells you, is constantly referring you back to the lecture notes or the textbook, chances are maybe they're taking a lot of their content and material from the textbook verbatim, and you're going to want to focus more of your energy on that. And it's also important to observe the kind of professor they are and the way they like to test, because I found that that has really helped me in the past. I know that one organic chemistry professor I had, she is very particular about small exceptions and facts. Like, she loves to mention them in class and then test them on exams. And if you're not paying attention in class, or if you're not, doing your due diligence, it's something you could easily miss. And then of course you're going to get it wrong in the exam because you missed it in class or you didn't pay attention to it when she was talking about it. And I remember this because there was this one exam I had where I had gotten this one question wrong, and I didn't understand why. I was like, bro, like, it had something to do with phthalimide and it's pKa. And that's how you know that getting that question wrong hurt me, because till this day I remember what molecule we were talking about. And it was something, I think we had to state the pKa of different H's it had, and I had gotten the question wrong. And I was so upset because I'm like, duh, it makes sense that this would be the answer. And she was like, oh, if you notice, I mentioned in class, phthalimide is the exception to blah blah blah. And I was like, I see what you do. You like to test on exceptions. And since then, I've paid a lot more attention to ifs, ands, or buts that she talks about in class, and I've been able to study them and make sure that I understand them. So if she were to test on another exception, I don't get that wrong again. The next thing I would suggest is, especially if you know it takes you longer to learn the material ahead of time. Most people are on winter vacation right now. This is the perfect time to start preparing for the science classes you're going to be taking next quarter, next semester. Start watching Khan Academy videos, start reading the textbook, look at the syllabus, like, start doing things to learn the material ahead of time, because it can only help you, and that makes you feel on an equal or better playing field when you start the class with other people, right? Because some people, it doesn't take them that much to learn. They don't require as much extra repetition or as much reviewing as other people do. I'm one of those people who do. So I found that the organic chemistry tutor on YouTube has been a lifesaver for me in terms of studying for physics. He also has a lot of other videos regarding other like science STEM classes as well, which I think are very helpful. AK Lectures is really good for biochemistry, biology. He has very detailed lectures on things that probably you get taught in college as well, and it wouldn't hurt to check out his videos. I didn't use him too much because his voice was kind of annoying to me, so I didn't watch it as much, but he has some really good information, and I used him during biochemistry as well on 1.5 speed, of course, and he knows his stuff, right? So looking into resources like that to learn the material, because let me tell you a secret, most professors that are teaching you are not teachers. They're not lecturers. They're probably doing research and teaching on the side, so they may not have the skill set to be the best kind of teacher. So you have to supplement yourself by finding good teachers, and you find good teachers through YouTube videos, Khan Academy, all these. You find good teachers through outside means. Don't just rely on in-class material to get you through that class. Next thing I would say, it's really important to be actively learning throughout the entire semester or quarter. Don't wait till an exam to study. You should be studying every day, every week, reviewing material, and also doing practice problems, you know? Don't just think that the PSET is enough practice to understand the material. The PSET will not help you understand the material at all. You should be doing practice problems before you even touch the PSET. Before you even touch practice exams, you should just be finding practice problems to do. Practice, practice, practice is the biggest advice I have, especially for science classes. You have to make time, find time to do that extra work that's not going to be graded, because it only helps you in the long run. Like my physics class that I took this past gap year, the teacher only gives exams. She doesn't give any PSETs, nothing. It's just exams, and that's your entire grade, the exams. So what does that mean? You don't wait until the exam to study. That means you have to have been doing practice problems regarding the material throughout the unit in order for you to do well on the exam. So even though we had problems from the textbook that weren't graded, she wasn't checking, who cares if you do them? I would always do them, then go to our office hours to review problems that I got wrong, because what that showed is that I am actively learning and I'm trying to study the material and learn the material, so that way when I get to the exam, that's not the first time I'm seeing a certain kind of question. It's not the first time that I'm like, oh, wow, I've never been asked to calculate this relativity problem. How do I do this? Because I have that muscle memory. I've been practicing problems. I've been doing it for the entire quarter, that when I get to the exam, it's not as hard. Don't get me wrong, exams are still hard, and I always walk out of exams feeling like, man, that exam just kicked my butt. But imagine how much worse I would feel if I didn't even study, if I didn't do practice problems. I wouldn't have even been able to answer most of the questions. Another secret that I've been keeping that really helped me my senior year is called the Echo Pen, and basically it's a pen where it has a microphone and it has a special notebook attached to it, and you hit record, so you're audio recording the lecture while you're taking notes on the special notebook. And what's great about it is it allows you to go back to your notes and play back what the professor was saying when you took a certain note. I'm the kind of person that, especially when the professor's going pretty fast, I'm just taking notes and not really like understanding what they're saying. So I'll go back and review my notes and I'll be like, I don't understand what this note meant that I took. Maybe I understood it at that time. I take out the pen, you put the pen right on the note, the beginning of that sentence, and it starts playing for me what the professor was saying at that exact moment I took that note. And that's really helpful for studying in case you forget something or you don't understand the context of the note you took. And the pens and the notebooks have been helpful for me, especially in my organic chemistry classes. It's helpful in classes where you're taking a lot of notes and you don't have time to really hear or understand or listen to what the professor is saying because you're so busy copying what's on the board before they erase it. I think the pen's like 100, 150. I think it's worth investment. I know that most Office of Accessible Education at universities have them to rent for like a certain period of time if you need to. Use it, you guys. Like, it's such a great technology. I'm like, I wish I had this pen and notebook earlier in my college career. So I'm going to link the description of the products below. It's not sponsored, but I think it's a great study tool. You guys should go ahead and check it out. Make and use flashcards for classes like biology, where it's a lot more memorization. You may want to use flashcards for those. I know Anki is a big thing in medical school. It may behoove you to start learning how to use it now as you're in college. It may be helpful. You can always find decks already made. I'm still learning how to use Anki. I use it a bit for studying for the MCAT. If you're sitting on the toilet, use the flashcards to review material. If you're walking to a class or something, review. If you're on the bus, if you're in the car, take out your flashcards. They're a very small, compact way to study in times where you only have like maybe a minute here or there or 10 minutes here or there, and that pays off in the long run as well. And I've said this before, but you should make office hours part of your routine. It is not just about going to office hours when you have a specific problem. Go to office hours when you don't have questions. Go to professor office hours because, first of all, you get to know the professor, right? You get to learn about what is important to them in the class, right? Because they will tend to talk about things that they know that they're going to put on the exams because they're the ones writing the exams. So go to professor office hours, and it also helps build that relationship in case you do want to ask them for a recommendation later in the future. If you've never been to their office hours, if they don't know who you are, why are you asking them for a recommendation? Put it in your calendar. It should be part of your routine. You don't just go if you have time. Make time to go. I was working full-time this past year. I still am, but this past year, and I always made it a point to leave work early so I could go to office hours every Wednesday, unfailingly, or was it Monday? Either Monday or Wednesday. I would leave work early so I can make that 1 hour of office hours. There's no such thing as excuses. If you want to do well, there is no excuses. You have to make it work. At the end of the day, it's really all about studying smarter, not harder. That's really what it is. If you can study smarter, you will find that your grades over time will change. Change does not happen overnight. Good grades do not happen overnight. It's part of trial and error. And I don't want you to think that by magically doing anything I talk about, you're gonna get an A tomorrow. It's about taking the tools and the advice, refining it, and making it work for you, finding what works for you. And that takes time. You know, unfortunately, it takes time. Like, I know it's very disheartening when you're trying to do better and you're still not getting the grades you want. I've been there. Literally, my junior year, I told myself I really wanted to do better in school. I had the motivation, I had everything, and I was still getting C's, y'all. And I was like, what the hell is going on here?
What is going on?
Like, why am I still getting bad grades? But it takes time. And by the end of my junior year, my C's turned into B's. By the beginning of my senior year, those B's turned into A's. It really takes time, and I want you guys to remain encouraged, remain motivated. Do not give up. You are capable of doing well in your pre-med classes. Don't let anyone tell you you cannot. Don't tell yourself you cannot. You'll need to start with saying, I am going to do well in these classes. By force, by fire, I'm going to do well. I hope this video was helpful. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment below any kind of videos you want to see. I have my How I Got Into Medical School with a Low GPA coming very soon, sooner than you guys think. So I'm super excited about that, and thank you guys for sticking with me, and I will see you in another video.